this is going to be a super high-paced session with 30 minutes of good time. So everybody wake up. If I go too fast over something, too bad, because we have a lot to cover. Sam Jafar is our VP of Global Loyalty. So he knows all of our customers. He knows all the stories that we're going to be telling today. And the most important thing, this is my favorite session because it is zero original content. I have stolen all of this content from our customers and their workflows, which makes it really easy for me and hopefully valuable for you. So my name is Ian. I'm from Canada. So that's up north. Some of you are, it's a little cooler up there now, but everything's cool. We work with 350 plus education institutions. So K-12, community colleges, higher education. How many state schools do we have here? How many community colleges do we have here? Perfect. How many K-12 do we have here? Perfect. I think I've got a shuffle on here that I didn't want to have on, but I'll battle with it and we'll go from there. So this is our family Christmas card. There's 120 of us up in Canada. We service 350 education customers. But really the goal here is to help improvement go. Why Blue? Blue is the name of our product. Because it integrates really well, it automates feedback, and it makes things easy. So what do people do with Blue? Anything under that feedback realm. So this is just getting into what we do, so you're going to understand when I really rev it up and start talking about what people do with it. So as opposed to just a course evaluation solution, as opposed to just an institutional survey solution, as opposed to just a 360 evaluation or assessment, wherever there's feedback coming through, we'll offer a really robust engine to go ahead and utilize that feedback platform. So this is very different from department to department, institution to institution, but the goal is here that you have one tool. You're not dealing with Qualtrics and a course evaluation and a 360, that you have one tool that can operate all those different aspects. We do really, really well with big schools because typically they have a survey department as well as a course evaluation department as well as a 360, but also small schools because sometimes that's one person, which is really, really difficult to battle with 4 or 5 different vendors, 4 or 5 different solutions. And the goal is that this is hands off the wheel, automated stuff. So we're going to integrate with your SIS, we're going to integrate with your LMS, and make everything tickety-boo. The other software that we have, we're not going to talk a lot about today, is a formative feedback tool. So it is the ability to offer customized, confidential feedback during the semester to ensure that there aren't surprises on the end of term evaluation. So we'll touch on that a little bit, but this is about building response. So I just want to kind of frame where we're at and the 5 stolen keys that we're going to talk about today. So before I move into this, I want to make sure that we understand kind of the data flow, because it's super important to understand how all these functionalities and features work. Blue integrates with any data system. So it might be Banner, might be PeopleSoft, might be Canvas, might be an ERP, might be, University of Kentucky uses SAP HANA, but we're grabbing data. So we're grabbing demographics, we're grabbing information, we're grabbing faculty if they've performed a training or whatever it may be, and it all comes in when you're making these processes super, super efficient for gathering feedback. And it'll make sense in a little bit later. So the access point is Canvas. So we're in a kind of situation where we can log in. And allow me, I'll just show you real live here because seeing's a little bit easier. So there's about any API feature that we can have in Canvas, we've gone ahead and activate. So other LMS vendors, Blackboard, D12, their APIs don't go down past a course level. Canvas has been really gracious to allow us to use those types of things. So there's a pop-up that says, hey, you might have a climate survey, you might have a dropout or a withdrawal survey, you might have a course evaluation to go ahead and fulfill. I'm going to say remind me later. You might have a reminder that pops up. You might have, in this case, let me see if we have assignments built in. So we've got an assignment. Let's see. So in this case, we have an assignment that has 0 points associated. We've used the Canvas APIs. If you fill out your course evaluation, you might get 3 points or 5 points or something like that that could apply to a person's grade. Additionally, it hooks into the calendaring system, hooks in the notification center, hooks into the gradebook, et cetera, et cetera. So wherever we can garner response and kind of go ahead from that within the course evaluation situation, we're going to go ahead and use that. So now we kind of understand that there's all this data coming in. There's all of this access point in Canvas. So there's an example of filling out that particular survey. Now let's talk about more agnostic stuff about how we can increase response rates. So here's Blue sitting in the middle, all the data coming in, the access in the LMS, and also the output into different aspects here. Okay? So now let's start talking about the fun stuff. Now that we've kind of got a macro, broad strokes understanding of how everything connects. By the way, it nests within your SSO, LDAP, authentication, WC Shambhala, all that good stuff as well. But I wanted to get to kind of the fun stuff. So I wanted to talk about CBE evaluations. So again, we can see when a student finishes their last grade in an evaluation course. So if you're kind of a situation like University of Louisville, I'm not a great accountant. Sam's a great accountant. I finished my course in 6 months. That's when the evaluation is going to be triggered. Because in Banner and PeopleSoft or in Canvas, you're going to go ahead and create an evaluation once that last grade is completed. For someone who's a great accountant, that might have to 2 days or 4 days or whatever it may be. So that increases response. So if U of L, a lot of our community colleges use that type of workflow to encourage that even in certifications or adult learning or education courses, that there's responses and significant data. Same thing goes for withdrawal surveys. We can see when a student withdraws, whether it's in the Canvas data, whether it's in the PeopleSoft or Banner or Genzabar, wherever it may be, and automate a survey that goes out to that withdrawn student. So what that does is it means you're getting accurate data if it's a good withdrawal. A community college might be celebrating when a student withdraws because they've got a job or they've got an employment. We have an Army-based client that the first question they ask them withdraw, did you go back into active duty? So that's not a bad thing. That's just part of the landscape of that particular institution. Employment surveys, graduate surveys, alumni surveys, all these different aspects can be triggered by data within Salesforce or CRM or whatever it may be. But again, the key thing is they're either going to be filling it out in Canvas or an email or a web or whatever it may be. So the key about this slide here is that each department, each institution is different. So if I'm running an alumni survey, I care about the last time someone was in Salesforce or attended an event. If I'm doing a withdrawal survey or a proactive climate survey, I want to look at the data. Let's email a survey to students who haven't logged into Canvas. Let's email a survey to maybe someone who failed their first exam. So it's proactive, kind of feedback during a semester that you can get that thing going. So this is kind of some of the stuff that we'll get into with exact examples. Alaska Fairbanks has a campus where the internet is not very stable. So they run paper at one campus, they run online at another campus. Conditional questions, we'll get to that in a bit as well. So do you like tomatoes? Yes or no? The following question might be, what type of sauce? Now obviously that's a horrible example, but you can see what I'm saying. Survey branching, it might be where you ask a different question to a student that has been on financial aid versus a student that is on a scholarship program. You're grabbing that data from anywhere in those data sources and making sure that that question relates to that student's experience. Now, why is this in a response rate area? If the first question relates specifically to a student's need, if it's a first name, last name, class piping, all of a sudden they know this isn't a generalized survey. They're looking at their experience, and the likelihood of that particular student responding is about tenfold. So you can do all those types of things with our software. Multiple data sources we talked about, 100% customizable report integration. So we have a community college that just spent a ton of money on training faculty members to be approachable. So in their SIS, they have a flag for all of the faculty members that attended that particular training. They want to run a report that aggregates those faculty members and compares them against those who did not take that particular training. So again, you're grabbing that data from different areas, and in one of the report blocks, you're using that demographic as a comparative analysis, maybe for question 4, which was a communication question. Doing a time trend analysis, doing a comparative analysis, doing fun stuff with the data, but you're using all those different data sources to ensure that that takes place. So engagement, what's in it for me? A lot of our institutions advertise the advantages to all stakeholders. They use newsletters, advertisements, email, et cetera, et cetera. It's about building response. So, dude, where are my course evaluations? This is, like, can't make this stuff up. That's off of a university in Kentucky. You're a good professor, just find out how good. This is building response drivers within the faculty. Number one trigger for response rates is the faculty believing that it's actually going to help them. Now, what do you need to help faculty? You need questions that are driven to their particular performance needs. You need to have the ability to have custom questions. You need to have the ability to have data that they want to look at. If a faculty member sees that they're 4.5, or say 3.5 out of 5 on communication, they're going to throw their arms up and say, ugh. But if you can give them, listen, you're 3.5 out of communication, but you're 1 out of 5 from female social work students, Maybe you want to look there a little bit more. Then the data means something. Now, the IR department or the survey department may not know what the action plan is based on that 1 of 5 data, but now you're not getting a cloudy picture, you're getting an accurate picture. You can do comparative analysis, you can do time trend analysis. You can see if that 1 out of 5 has been there with female social work students forever, or if this is just a blip, something that needs to be attended to. Get the right support. This is that's a football coach. So they had those pumping up the response rates for the particular course evaluations, different things like that. Make it fun. Students need to understand that it's a fun process, but also that they're going to be benefited from that particular aspect. We see tons of videos online which are really, really helpful to show the output. The number one thing that institutions forget is advertise the response rates, but also advertise the changes that have been made based on last semester's evaluations. What's in it for me? We're in this whole selfish demographic right now, where if you don't show the change that has happened from the course evaluations, there's no reason to go ahead and do that. If you ask a student, why are you filling out this course evaluation, they'll shrug their shoulders. Maybe they'll say, well, maybe if my little brother takes this course. But if there's actionable change based on that communication plan that's shared with students, all of a sudden they understand. Student council can be a great propellant of sending that message out, by the way. Optimization, shorter forms and smarter forms. So this is getting outside of software more into best practices. Make sure that you ensure that everything is super clear. Double-barreled questions are so common in these different types of areas. Make sure garbage in, garbage out is 100% there. Provide convenient and save options. A lot of students do this on the bus home when they don't finish. If there isn't a complete or save, you'll lose it forever. And make sure that you're using fast and live and accurate validation. So make sure you have a software that you can update a typo, update a question whilst it's in motion. If you don't have that type of feature and there's a mistake or an error, you'll never respond from it. Focus on, so this is making kind of in your introductions, make sure that every word is thought through. Use your PhDs at your institution to formulate the best introductions, the best benefit propositions, the best questions themselves to encourage the best response from students themselves. Keep it short, keep it informal, personalize it, so you need to use that demographic information, whether it be from Canvas or SIS. So, hey, Joe, we see that you've been you're in fourth-year student. We see that you're graduating. Here's a graduation survey. By explaining that clearly in the front content of that particular evaluation, you're going to get a lot of additional responses because they understand it's for them. So, real-life communication. So I bring this up because there's a PhD at Virginia Commonwealth University. This was their invitation prior to digging into it. Very long, very lengthy. There's an email, institution, click here, click now. By modifying all of this into this, they are able to increase response rates by double digits. So just by making that email a little less hectic, a little more straight to the point, a little bit more personal, using leading language, they were able to increase response rates. So this can be done on any survey, any platform. Take a look at this. Now, if you want to see an hour and a half of this presentation of A/B testing, it's on our website, bluenotesgroup.com. It's our community website, and you can take a look at the deep dive into this particular area. But it's great stuff, and it shows that every kind of thought of a communication with a student can have an impact on that response rate. Use email wisely. Only send one per student. If you're sending multiple emails for multiple surveys right now, that's a problem. Our platform obviously has all-in-one, so if you're doing a climate survey and course evaluations, you'll get a list of the evaluations and the surveys collectively that that student needs to complete. If they completed 2 out of the 5, they'll only see the 3 that are remaining. Students that have completed are not going to get reminders. I hate it when I go to conferences and fill out a survey, and then I get another email saying, hey, we look forward to your feedback. In the back of my head, I'm saying, I already did that. Stop bugging me. Make sure that you have those triggers set. It's a basic thing, but it's important. Make the message short and direct. I wanted to touch on this because students are only reading the top 3 lines in the invites of your emails. They're not going to read paragraph 2, paragraph 3, paragraph 4. So treat this like a marketing email. That's what it is. Make sure that those top 3 lines are showing the benefit, how easy it is, how much time it's going to take, and why it's important. Escalate the requester's rank with every reminder. First request comes from the TA, second request comes from the professor, third request comes from the dean, or you can up it, do those types of things. Make sure that you have a system that you can escalate the priority of the poke or the reminder. Implement a grade pathway. So our great friends at Northwestern do this type of thing, where you can have, when you complete your evaluation, you may get 24 hours or 48 hours ahead of the student who hasn't filled out the evaluations to see your grades. So this is a great carrot. We do this because, again, we hook into the grade book, we hook into the SIS data. We can block those grades for those who have not completed course evaluations and release those grades whom have. Grade enhancement incentives. This goes back to the assignment points or adding points into the grade book. Grade release. This is a little Orwellian, but in Canvas we can do a course block or a grade block if you haven't filled out those evaluations. So this is really, really popular for a graduation survey. You don't get your cap and gown unless you finish this survey, which usually comes on your last credit that you have completed, different things like that. So again, it's plug and play with access in Canvas, ease of use of completing that survey, and then a myriad of different data sources to make it all happen. Okay? And again, these can all be done at a department or a course or an online perspective. It doesn't have to be institution-wide. All these different features can kind of go from there. So where I stole this from is actually from University of Pennsylvania. So again, that bluenotesgroup.com, we have all of the archived webinars that you can go ahead and take a look at the long presentations for all of the things that I've poached in this short 30-minute presentation. Expand the evaluation workflow window. If you have it open for 2 days, you have it open for a week, try an A/B test where you open it for 2 to 3 weeks. See what your response rates do based on that particular area. Students procrastinate, but when they get into a mode of filling out evaluations, they'll fill out them all. If you only have a short window, you may miss those students that are up late cramming on an essay or completing a survey, or excuse me, completing an assignment or whatever it may be. Optimal, we see, space 2 to 3 weeks. In-class evaluations, if you have some offenders for response rates, a great way to bump them back up is to an online in-course evaluation with those particular areas. So say, for example, anthropology, I hope there's no anthropologists in the crowd, is the bane of your existence. You only get 15%, but your institution-wide response rate is 73. For a semester, what you can do is you can do an online in-course evaluation. So everybody get your laptops out. We're going to do our online evaluation. They'll get that pop-up in Canvas. You run through the evaluation as a group. The faculty member can see the response rate go up to 60 or 70%. And those who haven't filled out an evaluation will continue to get the reminders, the emails, the triggers, et cetera, et cetera. This usually relaunches the understanding that evaluations are important, mostly for the faculty, but also for the student. So try these types of things, especially if you have that data available. Transparency and communication. I told this was going to be fast-paced. Everybody still with me? I see some people are nodding. We're here. This is University of Pennsylvania's website. The first question on their course evaluations, what do you think it is? Anybody from UPenn here? What's the first question on your course evaluation? It is, do you want to complete this evaluation, yes or no? If you say yes, you're going to get a long list of questions that adhere to your student experience. So if you're a business student, there might be some business questions, institutional questions. If you're on financial aid, I think they have a question for financial aid. I know they have a student-athlete question as well, which is really cool. So if they see that the student-athlete check mark is there in the SIS, they ask them a particular question about how I think you guys have special tutor hall or something. Anyways, I don't know exactly what it is. It's in the presentation that I posted earlier that you can kind of take a look at. But what's key here is if they say no, they get the 5 institutional questions, and they have to respond to them or they can't see their grades. So super, super awesome type of scenario. And I think that's in one of the departments, but they also have an option. Now, their response rates are fantastic. I think you guys are in the 80 percentile. So giving students their option to kind of go ahead is super, super important. This is Indiana. They show the response rates to students online. So encouraging faculty, shaming departments, encouraging support, different aspects like that. But there's also a presentation on that we can see. So what's awesome is there are some institutions, I have to keep this one nameless, but on the East Coast there's an institution where if you fill out your course evaluations in term 1, this block appears, which shows the results from the course evaluations whilst you're choosing your courses in term 2. So it's a pay to play. If you filled out your course evaluations in term 1, in term 2, you may not go to ratemyprofessor.com. Now, what happened here was a huge spike in response rates because students had an immediate reason why they were responding to those particular evaluations. And the byproduct is faculty are really happy with this because you don't get the hot or not websites and different things like that into the students' eyes and ears and minds because they're staying in Canvas to see the information that they need. All this stuff, just a caveat here, all of these different columns is 100% configurable. So you could have any type of data that you wish in that particular area. And then this is a presentation, again, on bluenotesgroup.com from Indiana that showed what happened when they showed the faculty response rates publicly. Yada, 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 increase of about 12 to 15% in response rates. Okay? And they talk about the why, but the real curious thing is once faculty are aware of the response rates go up. Share the results quickly. So does anyone remember what happened 6 months ago, what happened 3 months ago? No. If you get reports 24 hours later, you start thinking about immediate actions on how you can improve your particular course, materials, instructor approachability, et cetera, right then and there. So don't set up a system where you're going to get 2-3 weeks break. That's when people are thinking their sabbaticals. That's when people are thinking about forward next semester. Think about it when they're building the syllabus for the next course. First report should go to provost immediately. Then there can be an approval process, check a button in our software, boom, out goes to deans, boom, out goes to faculty. Make sure that that's cascaded and it happens immediately. Response rate dashboards. So we have a response rate dashboard that can go out to faculty, dean, admins, whatever it may be, and when you log in, you see all of your courses, the exact response rate, but also the impact of emails, the impact of marketing events, where those response rates started to grow. Now, what's great is that at an admin level or a dean level, you can see all of the courses that fall under your hierarchy in Canvas. So you can see who may not be paying attention to their response rates and quickly send an email to those folks that have 0 or have 5 or have a face-to-face whilst the evaluation timeline is ongoing. This is just some examples of sharing reports. So it's not sensitive information, but more public information that you can share about demographics and different things like that. The state of Texas, they do it, I think, statewide. And the last piece we're going to talk about is something called Blue Pulse. So Blue Pulse is a formative feedback engine that allows confidential feedback from students to faculty members during the semester. So why would this increase response rates? In Canvas, students who are struggling, students who are maybe going to comment about chapter 3 or the TA or the lab being dirty, all these different comments that I've just said, they're course experience comments. But what do they affect? They affect the faculty evaluations. So if a TA didn't show up for a lecture or a study session on Tuesday in week 2, right, and I'm ticked off because I'm a student, I'm going to slag that faculty member on the end of term evaluations. Is that fair? No. But also, Blue Pulse allows this type of small hindrance in a student's experience to be corrected before it's harbored and brought forth into an end-of-term evaluation. So faculty really like this because they have an air of confidentiality with the student, but also the communication between the faculty member and the student can't be seen by the institution as well. So the big premise behind Blue Pulse, you can see different repeating pieces of feedback, but you can also respond back to segments. So if you asked a question, hey guys, are we all ready for the weekly quiz? The students that said not at all, you can respond back to that group saying, okay, how can we work on this? How can we help? Feedback that we've had in Blue Pulse that has impacted response rates tremendously are the silliest things. We had one class where once we launched it, there was 5 comments, and students can offer comments once a day, confidentiality per course. The biggest impact in response rates was there was a lab where the students were ticked off because every time they showed up, the lab was dirty. And they burned 10 minutes every class doing this. The faculty member who was getting destroyed on course evaluations because of this had no idea because a TA was running that particular aspect of the course. So a faculty member went from not applicable for tenure to someone who is soaring through by collecting that one little thing. We've seen the temperature's too cold in the classroom, and boom, blue pulse, the feedback starts coming. We've seen we can't hear you in the back row. Absenteeism went down because people weren't ashamed of showing up late and sitting in the back row not being able to hear. All these funny little intricate things. But the goal here is that this isn't going to be for everyone, but it's certainly going to be for a technology-centric faculty member. It's certainly going to be for a faculty that's looking for tenure or promotion or full-time status, because they get all of this data during the semester so they can work on it. One last thing. Often, faculty members will ask the exact same questions that they ask on an end-of-term evaluation using a formative feedback tool to get an understanding of how they're doing at a quarter term, midterm, three-quarter term, so that they can proactively make changes, or at least vocalize that those changes are being made during the classroom. So at the end of the semester, the student feels, okay, they're listening to me, we're making changes, we're making impact, different things like that. So that was a lot of information, but it was a lot of fun for me to kind of gather it. The one last thing that I kind of wanted to show you, I know I referenced a website a few times. I just want to leave that up for you. So this is 100% available for everyone. You can go ahead and take a look at most of the workflows that I spoke to today. BlueNotesGroup.com. And if anybody's not busy next week, we have our user conference in Louisville where a lot of these presentations are created. So how you get there is just go to webinars or search the whole website. What was one of the ones that we talked about? We talked about VCU, right? So if I wanted to look up, remember that email example where we had the A/B testing and all that different stuff? Here is the recording, and you can go ahead and click watch the presentation whenever you wish. Okay? So it's a lot of information, again, that I didn't source, but I'm just kind of stealing. But feel free, there's a forum, there's different topics that are kind of spoken about, different things like that that you can kind of go ahead and look at. All right, I think my coffee's starting to wear off. If there are any questions, anything that you'd like to elaborate upon, we can take those now. So thanks so much for your attention. Yep, go ahead. Could you get Blue Pulse without Blue? 100%. Blue Pulse, it can even go down to a course level. So we have some institutions that just use Blue. It's based on Canvas's rostering system, so it's 100% LTI. We have Blue Pulse set up at 50 courses at one school, campus-wide at another. Now, the key thing here is via the LTI plugin, you literally just click, I want it in this course, I want it in this course, I want it in this course. The answer is 100% yes. Any other questions? Geez, you guys are quiet. Yep, go ahead. Yeah, the slides will be posted on the InstructureCon site. They're not posted yet just because we were getting some late presentation ideas for a conference next week, but they'll be up soon, I promise. No problems. Any other questions? Yep, go ahead.
So you showed, I forget which university it was, that course evals were accessed through a campus site.
Yep.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So the LTI integration that we have with Canvas is brand new. We historically had an LTI plug that just had a launcher and a builder. We have 3 schools that are using this full-time, University of Kentucky and a couple of schools overseas. Say, for example, if you wanted to take a look at, remember the grade blocking feature that we had? Whereas I want to go ahead and access my grades, a pop-up says, nope, you can't go ahead and do that. You have to go ahead and fulfill. If I go ahead and maybe click on that, there's the survey that I'm going to go ahead and complete and log through and different things like that. So the calendaring system I can show you as well. Yeah, certainly. I am as a student. I apologize. Yep, 100% as a student. So I believe this term ends in August. So here's a course evaluation that I could go ahead and click on and access via the calendaring system. The calendaring system in Canvas is really robust as well because you can actually have alerts built into the calendar system. So you could have your course evaluations that show up on the 31st, and if you've got it rigged, you can also show a pop-up on the calendar a day before, 2 days before, 5 days before, et cetera, et cetera. So we've done this. We've done the notification center, the assignments. I think I touched on a little bit, but so here you have 0 points. This could be 5 points or 10 points or a full percentage on a grade point. That's, again, we can do it departmentally, faculty-based. Those types of feature sets are a little bit more faculty union, faculty bargaining agreement kind of, they need that type of buy-in, but they're there for kind of as things go from there. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yes. This is a, yeah, yep, great job.
What is typical?
Ah, okay. I apologize for interrupting.
What would students typically see?
Great.
And what are they seeing
Mm-hmm.
throughout the semester, or when are they seeing something?
Yeah, so the question was, just for the video, in this demo environment, there's notifications coming out left, right, and center. I think there's 8. What would a typical integration be for a student to get the best response? Typically, what we've seen from a professional service is 2 of those options. So a pop-up and a calendar, a notification, and a integration to a grade book. Anything more can be a little bit overwhelming.
So what you just said, does that include any of the buttons on the left-hand side?
One of my favorite ways of including, the answer is no, just so I'm super, super clear. One of the best ways that I see increasing response is branding this side panel with the verbiage that your institution would see fit. This is where course evaluations are going to live. So the notifications bring a launch towards this particular area in the course. So it would stay on the left-hand side as far as where the home base would be for a course evaluation fill-out or a survey or something like that. But the others are just notifications that draw that in. Does that make sense? Sort of?
However, say you've got at most
Yep.
the period during which students can participate
Yes, yes.
in completing a course eval
Mm-hmm.
being somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks
Yes.
of a typical 14 to 16 week semester.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole lot of time
Yep.
where my
Yes, yes.
of these tools
Mm-hmm.
in a course where it's not actively being used. Visibility, both from the perspective of the student, who
Mm-hmm.
might then be thinking about course evals all semester long,
Yeah.
and from a faculty perspective, who is now also thinking about course evals all semester long.
Certainly.
And there's, as opposed to thinking about student learning, and not that those things are unrelated,
Mm-hmm.
but there are things that one might do as a strategy to improve your course evals that may not necessarily be the best pedagogical decision
Yes.
for a particular course. So
Yep.
can you speak about that?
Yeah, I completely agree, by the way. The question was about notifications really being pertinent during a 2 or 3 time when the evaluation period is open, and how you can make sure that this doesn't clog the pipes during other times in the semester when it's not important. The problem is me. I didn't communicate it very well. These types of prompts and notifications have an admin panel where you can set a timer when they're going to show up. So the only thing that would be there permanently, just to be completely transparent, is the home area where it says course evaluations. In a time when it is not open, it would be blank, but all of the other notifications, the calendaring, the pop-ups, the notification centers, they're based on a schedule when the period is open.
So course evaluation is there somewhere
Yes. Yep.
all semester long.
Yep. And that's where, yep.
Are you hearing any pushback from faculty with any concerns about that embedded in their coursework?
Up until now, no. I can send you some sites in Canvas where they just have a little paragraph that says, this is the link to the course evaluation page on the TLC, Teaching and Learning Center page, or this will be open between this. That's just kind of a static page. The reason why it's there, I believe I'm not as technical as some other people in our company, would just be to ensure that that's an open conduit when that comes on. So some courses may have midterm evaluations, that's where maybe a survey would come in. I can definitely get you in touch with someone who would give you a better answer than that, but that's the reason that it's there. And then to answer your question, no, we haven't heard any major feedback from that up until now. Okay, does that answer your question? I apologize for not giving you the full scope on the timing, because that's a very important issue. So that's a great question with not knowing all the bits and pieces.
And at a large university with
100%.
overlapping
Yeah.
with overlapping
Totally.
regular semester course
Yeah.
at odd times, it would be administratively impossible
Yeah.
to selectively reveal that navigation
Correct.
button only when it was necessary.
Certainly, let alone being annoying for the student. So I completely understand. Like medical, they have, clerical, and they have the return, different cycles and different things like that, where they might have a evaluation every 2 weeks. For that student, sure, they'll have a notification when that pops up. But 100%, that's a really good point.
One last question. Sorry.
No, don't apologize.
If someone clicks on the course evaluation button,
Yes.
it takes them into the course evaluation site. Are they presented with evals only for the course that they came from, or is that portal into a system that would provide them with access to evals that they can complete for any course that they're currently?
Great question. So the question was, just for the video, is when you're clicking on a reminder for one course, does that lead just to the course within a Canvas, or also the extended, you have to complete at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? The answer is you can rig it how you wish. The most common implementation is if you're in poli-sci and you want to click that course, you fill out the poli-sci, and on the last page of the survey, then you see the remaining surveys that you have to complete. But you can inverse that if you wish. I've seen it done a few times in Australia. So yeah, the answer is it's configurable. But good questions. Anyone else? That was, yep, go ahead.
So, I think as an example, they have their 5 institutional questions.
Yes.
Are those linked? How does that work? Are those 5 questions on each survey?
Yeah.
Are we able to report it together?
Yeah. Great question. Yeah, no, just wondering if I have an example here. I can certainly show you a question bank or a cascaded model. What happens is the 5 institutional questions are typically institution-wide. There may be different wordings of those 5 institutional questions for online courses or blended or competency. So there may be different question sets, but at a base, they're going to be the same. Quality of instruction, approachability of Instructure, course material, aptitude or mastery of the professor, et cetera, et cetera. Those are typically going to be institution-wide. Then in a cascaded model, in one project in blue, you can have different questions for department. So maybe there's different medical questions or business questions or MBA questions or whatever it may be. Then often we see faculty-based questions where faculty choose from a question bank based on competencies. So say, for example, we have a communication bank where a faculty member would be encouraged or required to choose one of these questions. Now, it's a lot less daunting if you have a choice between 5 questions than just being kind of voluntold that this is the question on communication. In addition to that, we have some structures where faculty can choose the competency questions, competency buckets that they'd like to be evaluated upon. So this might be their choice, last professional review, or in my learning portfolio, I got docked heavily for approachability or level of communication. So they can choose from that bucket. And then in addition to that, there may be demographic questions that are just piped in. So it might be, again, we talked about financial aid, or it might be an at-risk student or something like that. That's just grabbed from a different data source and kind of piped in. Now, in addition to that, there can also be questions that are created by the instructor, if that's enabled by the institution or the dean or the department head, and those can be selected from as well.
I guess a follow-up question would be, how
Yep.
does that cascade model report? Are the cascading questions in that survey localized to that reporting, or can you report across multiple surveys if they're not, as long as they're using the same?
Great question. So with those question bank questions, can they be comparative analysis? Can there be cost tabulations, different things like that? If they're chosen from an existing bank, yes. So if it's in a communication bank, 100%, because it's going to be some sort of collective, competency that analysis that the institution has put together and gone from there. Now, where the honest answer is no, if a faculty member is creating their own questions, obviously that's not going to be something that you can draw, exactly, you're not going to be tried from. But what's great about kind of the competency-based questions or the course-specific questions is they can be evaluated, comparatively department versus department, faculty versus faculty, campus versus campus. Again, the key thing with Blue is you can aggregate anything. So if you even wanted to run a report that was based on first-year professors or transfer students or professors that have a PhD versus professors that have a master's, any aggregation is possible. As long as that data can be sourced from one of those places that data is being piped in. So I've seen reports based that remove GPAs from 1 and below because they want to remove bias from angry students. I've seen faculty wish to break down male versus female, distance to campus, ethnicities, if you live in a residence versus if you don't live in a residence. So basically, any campus-specific information that you have in any source can be used as an aggregation point, which is super, super powerful. We talked about the last one. I just want to remember that whole faculty you completed a training, that's going to be specific for that institution. It's not going to be something that's in a cookie-cut type of demographic, but they're able to go ahead and use that as an aggregation for comparative analysis or time trend or whatever it may be. Does that answer your question? I went on a little bit of a ramble there. Yep, that's great. Any other questions? Yep, go ahead. One last one, yep, in the back.
Yeah. So I apologize for being late. I said this.
No, no worries.
So do you, within Blue, do you keep track of user of the students' clicks and the data, the non-anonymous data within Blue?
Good question.
Like currently, our system, I live at the University of Michigan, we keep track of those clicks, and then we send it not anonymously to our SIS system, and then periodically we purge that data.
Good question.
I'm wondering if Blue has that same.
Yeah, is that caliper-based data, or is it event-based data, or behavior-based data?
But right now it's in our SIS.
Gotcha, okay.
It's in our old system, which is not.
Great question. So the question was, do the clicking as students, so the behavioral-based questions, does that get reported and put to the SIS? In Blue, we have some features that kind of dovetail into the behavior-based analytics, which is what you're looking for.
I don't want it necessarily, I don't want it to go to the SIS.
Oh, you just want...
I just want to know.
Yeah. Okay, so the answer is we do gather some analytics in that regard. So if a student goes all the way down the middle with like 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, or 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, we can isolate those results. Samir, do you have a...
So what you can do is you can have essentially a workflow. You can decide which questions are mandatory so you know which flow the student is going to take. You can also have a logic built in. So if a student responds on the outliers, you can make a comment box mandatory. So you have the capability to build some intelligence inside, and that essentially helps you on what you're probably interested in is around the quality of the response.
Well, we're actually looking with, I'm not being very clear, but we do a data purge of that data periodically, and I'm wondering if Blue does that.
Blue stores the data.
Yeah, I think
Blue's database.
Yeah, I think we may have.
And you can use the APIs to extract that data into any data warehouse.
Yeah, I think we leapfrogged the question. I apologize for that because we jumped to the like, hey, down the middle or the randomization or whatever it may be. But to make that work, the data has to be there, which can be exportable. So I think I got a little carried away. The answer is yes, we have that data, and you can go ahead and put that into a data warehouse or an SIS. I apologize, I got a little excited there. The root need for that is obviously to remove students that are just slamming 1 or slamming 5. There's also, you can flip the scales to ensure that students are paying attention, different things like, so there's different functionality in Blue that works off that data, but that data is available as well, okay? Apologize for that. I did have 2 coffees before this. So, thank you so much for all of your questions and all of your attention. This has been a real joy for me. I haven't done one of these presentations where we just kind of stole workflows, but hopefully it went well. So I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you so much.